Guys, what's up and welcome back to the Mama's Review. So I had a video requested to do this video for you guys, so I'm excited to do it. What I want to talk to you guys today about is night weaning your child. So daytime weaning, I'll touch on that a bit too, but night weaning was really the biggest headache for me and I really couldn't find anything out there to help me with it. So let's get started. So one of the biggest things that I thought was when I started to sleep train my son, about 4.5, 5 months old, I sort of thought that when you sleep train him, he's gonna sleep through the night. And that was not true. We were still waking up in the night, you know, between 3 or 4 times, and it was getting a little ridiculous, and I really didn't know what to do. We were dealing with a few things during that time as well, gas, and he was breaking from his swaddle, and all of that sort of stuff. But once we had still gotten all of those figured out, he was still waking up a couple of times a night to feed, and I thought, if I'm sleep training him, shouldn't he sleep through the night? And it was very confusing for me, and I really couldn't find, like I said, any information to help me. So what I would suggest, because I did this a little bit backwards, is night weaning while you are sleep training. So once you have gotten sleep training kind of figured out, you know, do one or the other, and I would say start with sleep training. So once you've got sleep training figured out, then immediately start night weaning. And because by the time that they're 6 months, most pediatricians and most doctors would tell you that they can pretty much sleep through the night. They might need to wake up once to feed, but for the most part, they can pretty much sleep through the night. I have friends who have babies who slept through the night from like a couple months old. So I know that at 6 months, your baby will be fine, especially because you're going to probably be starting solids around that 6-month time frame. So you can make sure that you're giving them a really good solid snack before they go down for bed, whether that's applesauce or whatever you give, baby rice cereal, whatever you feel comfortable with, giving them that snack or that, you know, meal before they go to sleep will hopefully fill their tummies and help them stay asleep throughout the night. Now, I wouldn't recommend daytime weaning if you're going to nighttime wean at 6 months. They do not need to be daytime weaned yet unless you are, you know, somebody who is going to start bottle feeding or whatever. Do not daytime wean them at 6 months. That is way too early. You should try to give them formula or breast milk as, you know, for the first year as much as possible. So do not daytime wean, but nighttime wean is more what we're talking about. Now, because my situation is a bit different, because with my son, I didn't understand all of that. I was a new mom and I didn't know what I was doing. We got his sleep training under control. Then I daytime weaned him. And then by about, you know, a couple weeks after his first birthday, he was fully weaned. We had nighttime weaning and everything taken care of. But that took a little bit of adjusting, that took a little bit of figuring out. So it will be different for us for our next child, and only because I have figured things out and I know kind of how it should go now. So what I would recommend is when you start that sleep training, and if you haven't seen my video on sleep training, I'll have it linked down below for you guys. But once you start that sleep training, once you have it under control, go ahead and start the night weaning process and keep daytime as normal as possible. And in fact, you might even have to increase daytime a few feeds just so that they make it through the night and they will be more full. So now on how you're actually going to start to wean them. What I would suggest is start with the feed that you find the hardest to get through. Now, what I mean by that is Jacob Say would wake up, you know, he would go to bed around 7 and he would wake up at about midnight, then again at 2, then again at, you know, 6 or something like that. That was kind of his usual. And so you're gonna wanna pick the feed that you find the hardest. So for me, it was that 2 o'clock feed. The midnight one didn't really bug me so much because most of the time I knew he was gonna be up at that time, and so I just kind of stayed up until then. I maybe was in bed just watching a video on my phone or whatever until I knew he would wake up. Now I have a tip on that as well to help you with that. But before I say anything about that, like I said, cut out the one that's the hardest. In order to cut it out, what you're going to do is you're going to go in and set a time limit. So if you know your baby normally feeds for 10 minutes, start at 10 minutes. And every day, take away a minute until you get to 2 minutes. So it will take you 10 days to wean your baby from the 2 o'clock or whatever feed you choose. So that's what we did. And what I did is I went in and I fed him for 10 minutes. And then the next day I fed him for 9 minutes. The next day, 8 minutes, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. And once I got down to 2, you do not feed them. Most of the time, once I hit that mark, Jacob was no longer waking up for that feed. If he was able to soothe himself back to sleep because we had already sleep trained. And if he needed to, I would go in, I would give him a little snuggle, give him a little kiss, and then lay him back down and he would fall back asleep. And then it was just being treated as basically sleep training at that point, because now he's no longer looking for food. He's no longer associating that wake up with food, but he was still used to waking up at that time. So now once you have that feed under control, you're going to pick the next hardest one for you and just work through it the exact same way. So it's the exact same situation and it should be pretty easy with the transition because like I said, you already have them solidly sleep trained. They are weaning off of night feeds. You are introducing more and more food during the day. You're giving them the snack before bed, so they don't really need all of this extra. And it'll depend on how many times they're waking up in a night. Jacob woke up still quite a few times, but if your baby's only waking up once, boom, you are done. Now they might start to wake up earlier, so be prepared for that. They might start to wake up instead of 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock, because now they're not getting that snack in the middle of the night. So you can adjust your bedtime routine to fit that, or your morning time routine, or I know you can buy those little night lights and try to teach them that, no, it's not time to get up yet. Do what works for you in that situation. I don't really know what to tell you for that, except you might be tired for a few weeks, but you actually now will be sleeping through the night, so it won't be as hard, so keep that in mind. Now, like I said, you're just gonna continue that on until you have cut out all of the feeds for yourself. I actually kept the 6 o'clock feed for a little while longer, and that was because I thought, hey, if I don't mind feeding him even for 5 minutes to get him to sleep for another hour, I can then go lay back in bed and sleep till 7 o'clock. So do what works for you. And again, you can cut that one out slowly and then maybe he will sleep till 7. Pick what works for you and don't try to stress about it too much because that's just gonna give you a headache. So now for the midnight feed. What I would do for the midnight feed is called dream feeding. So I would go into his room while he was still asleep before I went to bed. So if that was 11 o'clock or whatever time it was, before that I was about to actually go to sleep, I would go in, I'd pick him up as quietly and as, carefully as I could. I'd get my nursing pillow ready, I'd lay him on the nursing pillow, and I would feed him without waking him. So now his tummy is actually full. He's not gonna wake up in an hour or 2 hours to nurse because I fed him when I'm going to bed, and now he's only gonna wake up at his 2 o'clock or whatever his next feed is. Now, keeping in mind, you're going to still have to wean him off of that dream feed, but this allows you to feed him or her before you actually go to sleep yourself. And that helps you from not having to fall asleep and then wake up in 2 hours. So those are my tips, guys. Like I said, cut it out, very slowly, a minute at a time, a minute a night, and a feeding at a time. Pick the feeding that is the toughest for you to get through and cut that one out first, and then work your way around it. If you find that your baby's waking up, feed them at that point, put them back in their bed, and then cut that one out slowly. You might actually even be introducing a new feed at that point, but it will allow them to sleep more throughout the night and sleep longer. So they might turn that 6 o'clock into a 7 o'clock wake up time. And last thing, like I already said to you guys, go ahead and use that dream feed and then cut that dream feed out slowly, and that will help you to actually get a full night's rest. You will be sleeping from the time they're sleeping till the time they wake up in the morning, and who doesn't want that? Anyway, guys, I hope this video helped. It's a lot of information, but seriously, it's information that I really had to dig for. So I hope that it helps you guys. Night weaning is one of the toughest things. And then I just use daytime weans as the same way. I just would recommend that you do that when they're, way older and when you are finally done nursing. But for the nighttime weans, I would say go ahead and start around the 6-month mark for yourself, or assess the situation and see what you're comfortable with. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up if you did. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already to follow along, and we will see you in my next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.